Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, Perfect Building Maintenance, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Ariel Property Advisors, Sterling National Bank, Capital One Bank, Collins Building Services, Meridian Capital Group. Additional support has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Amerant Bank, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, B6 Real Estate Advisors, Briarwood Organization, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Commercial Mortgage, Citizens Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Properties LLC, Handler Real Estate, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Matone Group, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Meringor Family Foundation, and these friends. So it's called the Garden State. I don't know why it's called the Garden State, because there's still some farming and other products, but lots of things are happening. All different types of development are taking place in the Garden State. So due to the help of my executive producer, Kevin Cummings, who is the chairman and CEO of Investors Bank, we're presenting a group of individuals to talk about what's happening and the outlook for the real estate market in the Garden State of New Jersey. As I said, my guests include Kevin Cummings, the chairman and CEO of Investors Bank, Stanley Correva,
Yes.
who is the president and COO of PRC Group,
Yes.
Carrie Teifel, who is president and CEO of Hotels Unlimited and the TFE Properties, and last but not least, Jeff Bastow, who is a partner at Claremont Development. So, banker, since you're the guy who lends money to these people, how do you see the market in New Jersey?
We see the market pretty strong in New Jersey, especially North Jersey. South Jersey, Philadelphia doesn't do for South Jersey what New York City, Manhattan does for North Jersey. We think the transit centers are strong. Jersey City, Hudson County is very strong. And just last night I was at a function in Newark honoring Mayor Baraka, and I tell you, Newark is coming back strong.
But a lot of things are happening in Newark. The Walker Towers being taken care of, the Haynes department store. So there has been a resurgence in Newark. But let's talk about areas near Newark. You're developing in Newark, right?
We have a couple projects in Newark, right? We're building some industrial down by the port. Office building that's purpose-built for a single-tenant user. We have student housing. We control several other sites that are all around downtown Newark, so we think it's great. There's a lot of positive energy there, and look forward to getting these things out of the ground and finished.
You, Carrie?
We are more in, I'd say, core central New Jersey, primarily in Monmouth, Middlesex, Ocean, and Mercer counties, with some exceptions. And we're finding the market to be very strong and consistent.
Now you have, what, about 8 hotels?
We have 11 hotels, a mix of full service and select service hotels in those 4 counties.
So let's talk about the hospitality market in New Jersey. Are you gearing to the traveler or the business person or the corporate executive? Where would you say?
I would say we cross over and cover all facets of travelers. Some of our hotels might be more to one sector than the other. Some of them are closer to the Jersey Shore than others. So depending on which specific property would perhaps yield a little bit more of one or the other, but for the most part, no one hotel is reliant on any one sector.
One area, because of the e-commerce world, is the logistics and the industrial. How are you looking at that market today?
Up and down the turnpike, logistics are very hot. The rents have gone up significantly, and there's not enough supply to meet the demand right now.
Anyone sitting here building any new industrial?
Yeah, we're up by the port, and then we have a site down in Middlesex County. I feel like every time I call a leasing broker, the rents have gone up 25 or 50 cents so we're starting 2 projects next year, 750,000 square feet. So it's a great market. I wish I had more of them.
There's this perception in the world that retail is dead. Okay, and you were talking to me before about one of your developments. You're taking over a former Kmart over there. How do you look at retail in the Garden State of New Jersey?
I would say you have to be creative and not rely necessarily on traditional past retail users, but be creative. And a lot of centers are putting in gyms. There seems to be a lot of gyms going into centers where there were former supermarkets or other large spaces. A lot of movement toward children activity centers. We're doing a deal with a children activity center that's going to take 32,000 square feet.
Like a ninja center, or?
It's rock climbing, bowling, a mix of that. And actually, in the same town, there's a few others coming in. So hopefully, there'll be enough room for everybody, and they'll all create their own little niche.
A number of people are seeing new entrants in the retail. Hobby Lobby has come in from the Midwest. One of the big areas that we just talked about before is the American Dream, which is a development taking place in Bergen County in the Meadowlands, which has probably been on the books for approximately 20 years. How do you look at that over there? I mean, I know you're not a bank specifically involved with the development, but it took them a long time to get the financing.
Oh yeah, there's been a couple of write-offs for banks, that have been involved in that project. It's been fits, stops and starts over the years, but I think they're expecting to open probably in the late fall. It's going to be similar to what Kari just said. You got to be creative. It's going to be, I think the numbers now are like 60% recreational, a lot of restaurants, and then your core retail. I think that very competent group of investors and operators. They have the big project, the Mall of America in Minneapolis, and one similar project up in Canada. Now the problem is the traffic and the congestion, and Sunday football, the Sunday Blue Laws rules in Bergen County, and then I look at it. Will the people in Manhattan want to come over to New Jersey to see this, and how often will they want to come? If I'm an executive, say from Europe, from Frankfurt, and I'm in visiting Manhattan on a business trip with my family, is there too much to do in New York proper? And will I take the train and go to East Rutherford, New Jersey?
With regard to that, since you're the official team of 2 of the teams in New Jersey, are a lot of people taking the train from New York City to go out to New Jersey for the football games?
Oh yeah, when you see that train coming in from I guess it comes in through Hoboken, it comes out to the game. It's full, and people are using it.
Stan, what are you doing these days in New Jersey? Your developments?
So right now, we are a central New Jersey property management where we have 2,100 apartments, but we're expanding in North Jersey. We have a development right now on the west side near NJCU, New Jersey City University, where we're building 144 apartments that are opening up in October of this year. And along with Claremont, another building right next door, another 198 units we're starting in the next 90 days. But we're also building in Bayonne that we're starting in the next 60 days, 162 apartments right across from the rail line. And I think that's a great market that's still being tapped properly throughout the city. They are very welcoming in Bayonne, and this will be a great project for us. And lastly, we're also in Newark. We are working with Dr. Joel Bloom of NJIT in an opportunity zone right now to put another 99 apartments on right with their area.
I'm happy that you brought up the term, the opportunity zones, because very few people really understand what to do with the opportunity zones. It's a topic of discussion, But my problem that I've had is I've since I'm older and I remember the tax shelter syndicators, that they're going to be good, bad, and indifferent with regard to the opportunity zones. Talk to me about your involvement with this opportunity zone development.
So this happened to be just perfect timing as the Opportunity Zone legislation came out. One of the buildings in the whole area near NJIT, that we're 240 MLK, is where we're looking at the Opportunity Zone. And we get calls daily about we want private investment in that. We're not even asked that point yet, but we're getting the calls knowing that's where it is, that we want to be your investor besides our own.
Right. For my audience, you know, it's a deferral, a tax deferral of up to 7 years, so it's important. How do you as a bank look at opportunity zones?
Well, I was talking to one major developer in New Jersey, and he called that tax law change the biggest opportunity since the Reagan tax law change, you know, in the 80s, when they accelerated the depreciation. So I look at it, you know, the regulations aren't out yet, or they're coming out. It's
They're out,
a little fuzzy.
but they've changed them every couple of months.
That's what I mean. So I think it's going to create a lot of opportunities in these opportunity zones, and I think it's good for the redevelopment. But it's a longer term. You got to be a longer term investor.
Right, and I think that's the question, that the investor has to stay there for a longer term. Okay, you know, it's easy to say I want to defer my taxes, but I may want some cash flow. The final recent regulation said you can get cash flow from refinancings and so on. With regard to that, how are the lenders, besides my friend Mr. Cummings over here, offering financing in the Garden State? You see availability or?
Yeah. So we just closed an Opportunity Zone deal last Monday, actually, 220 apartments in Englewood. It worked as a traditional, you know, like everybody else, all the other developers in New Jersey, it takes a long time.
So where do you get your investors from?
A family office.
Okay,
Family
so they're
office.
taking their capital gains that they took somewhere else and they were plowing it over there.
Yeah, it's a big project, $67 million project, right? So they took about $20 million of gains. You know, obviously, we invested, and you know, we're closing a loan with a life insurance company tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah. You know, the beautiful thing about it is it's not like the 1031 where it has to be real estate. You could sell a tech company, have a huge gain, and then you could plow it back into these opportunity zones.
The reality was this money is supposed to be used for small businesses to capitalize and operate new businesses. That's what it really is. It was an adjunct that the world changed with regard to real estate because people didn't realize the rules were out 9 or 10 months, and then somebody said, oh, there's other opportunities or different approaches available over there.
And I think there was the idea was to create jobs, and I think you have to create at least some construction jobs and get people going and put people back to work.
You know, one area that people always talk about is the Jersey Shore. Okay, how do you see the opportunities taking place in the Jersey Shore? Different type of asset classes with regard to the office market, to the residential market, to the hospitality market.
So I would say that from the hospitality standpoint, it's strong. Long Branch, which is one of the towns by the Jersey Shore, has had continued development by Pier Village. The new phase is being worked on. There's a new hotel that opened up, the Wave Hotel, that just opened Memorial Day weekend.
In Long Branch?
It's 64, 67 rooms with very high prices as far as the daily rate. It's supposed to be like from $540 per night. We have a Sheraton hotel in that market that's not on the beach, but we're excited to have hotels that start at rates of $540 because then that drives up the rates of the hotels that are 5 miles away.
I think a good example is the Asbury Park. I think the new hotel is opening up next week.
Yes, it's opening up for July 4th. The hotel part's opening up. I think the condominium portion of that project is going to open months later.
But the residential is also strong. There is major residential right now in Asbury that iStar's doing. And then also right in Long Branch, we're building 26 luxury townhomes as a GC for another one of our clients as part of our business right on the shoreline near President's Park in Long Branch. And these are townhomes that are going to look plus or minus in the $2 million range.
Sports betting is doing exceptionally well, I know, at the Meadowlands. Has that helped spur development in Monmouth and Ocean counties?
I wouldn't say it's spur development. Even on the hotel side, I think it's more local people going to gamble there and do sports betting. I don't think people are traveling from miles away that would otherwise not and need to stay over. But it's certainly helping area businesses, because if people are coming there for sports betting, they're stopping for coffee, they're stopping at restaurants. So I think it's helping the area itself, but not necessarily across all business types.
What about the developments near Fort Monmouth, which closed, and Bell Labs we were talking about?
Yeah. I was just talking to a developer customer yesterday, and he's just got awarded or took over the golf course down in Fort Monmouth, and the officer housing, which is in the center of the golf course, right near 9 and holes 9 and 11. He's going to level the officer housing and put up, I believe, 60 townhomes. So, I mean, that's developing. I know one of the schools, there's a new school down there that's took a piece of that property, the old Fort Monmouth property, and there's a tech company that built a nice building down there. Yeah. So they're developing that in pieces. You probably are a little more familiar with it, right?
Exactly, and we actually are rehabbing right now what's known as Squires Hall there. That's starting in the next 30 days for the NJCU, what we'll call the Southern Campus. That's right now located at Brookdale. A year from now, it will be next September following year, they'll open up their campus there, their Eastern Campus, and we're renovating that as we speak.
Now, Jersey was also known for pharma. What's happening with regard to the pharma business today in the Garden State?
Well, you know, just in my town, in Summit, Celgene was acquired by, I think, was it Bristol Myers? I'm not sure. Bristol Myers, I believe. But there's been consolidation. I think the governor, we have a relatively new governor, he's committed to trying to bring back the biotech. I mean, if you look at the history of New Jersey, you look at Bell Labs, the biotech that we had in the Kane administration. We've kind of lost that over the years, because of the high cost of living and moving up to, say, Massachusetts and out to California and other areas of the country. And I think some of that smart development, because New Jersey, because of its location, its transportation hub, I think the number of engineers and scientists per square mile in New Jersey is probably better than anywhere in the world. And the educational system that we have here in New Jersey, I think we're trying to bring back that biotechnology, pharma, and technology back to the Garden State.
With regard to healthcare, I mean, the Barnabas system is huge, and there are other developments. I know the Summit Medical Group had a resurgence. Are you seeing that significantly changing in the healthcare?
Well, healthcare is one of the areas that we're focusing on. We're out there hiring healthcare professionals. We see that as an opportunity. You have the aging population, so you have the assisted living and nursing homes is a nice area of business with the right operators, and I think. You're certainly going to see the Healthcare Summit Medical, I think, is going to be involved in a transaction with a little bit of a venture capital money. Is going to come in and buy them out. And so it's, they've grown tremendously.
You bring up an interesting point. The aging population want to be in the region, so senior housing. Are any of you involved with building any senior housing, which is not basically assisted living? I mean, it's just senior housing.
We have a project that we had approved for senior housing that we're selling to a national developer, but it's single homes, not a rental project.
And that's what I've seen. The senior housing is being coveted mainly by the public. The developers, the private developers like us, get the approvals and move on, because there is still a need for senior housing. That was rich in the 2005 to 2008 area. It died with the downturn, but then it's come back. Mm-hmm. And there is a tremendous amount of baby boomers every day looking to change over from their single-family homes to the senior housing.
One of the biggest problems in many communities is affordable housing. How is New Jersey handling this affordable housing?
Well, each town has their requirements, but overall, Fair Share is taking control, and the courts have taken control of the majority of these settlements that are happening as we speak. I'm looking at a project right now where the settlement in the town has to be done by this month, by the end of and they're saying it needs to be inclusionary. There's no more just payment in lieu of COA housing. So it's conclusionary, and most of it's the 80-20 rule, 20% of affordable. But
is it on site? Or?
Well, I was just going to, but at least 10% has to be on site, and then 10% can be off site on another tract of property. but there's no more just payment. And it's the right answer. There should be inclusionary housing with these new projects, and that's what we're seeing as we look at projects throughout the whole state.
You know, one of the areas that was hurt 10 years ago with the recession was the office market in New Jersey, the suburban office market. Has that improved? Or are there developers making changes and converting these buildings, either knocking them down or building residential or mixed use?
Jeff, you got one, right?
Well, look, there's a couple office markets that are fantastic, right? Certainly Jersey City, Summit, Morristown, but
Right.
outside of that, I mean, we're tearing down a just under 300,000 square foot office building in Parsippany and building really a town center. It's 470 apartments in 2 phases with 100,000 feet of retail. So we're sort of reabsorbing space that's functionally and physically obsolete and repurposing it into, this generation
Gary?
lifestyle.
I think it depends on markets within New Jersey. I mean, there's towns that it really depends on the vacancy rate. If it's really been overbuilt, then it's going to get repurposed. If it's a town where, the vacancy factor might be 15% to 80%, then I think the existing supply can.
Now, you said you were doing something in Woodbridge, right?
Yeah, we're converting it's really a condominium unit, floors 2 through 9 in a what was a large office building. We're converting from offices to apartments.
What are you seeing with regard to the co-working spacing in New Jersey, and what's your thoughts about the market?
We haven't done anything with it yet. I mean,
Yeah, I would say that the multifamily that's being built today, the luxury stuff, is incorporating aspects of that. They'll have something that's more than a business center. They'll have little private rooms so people can meet and work from home and feel comfortable using the public areas. But I don't think it's to the level of what you see in New York City.
Yeah. I just toured a property with Paul and Eric Silverman. Paul was on the show years back, and they just did a project down in Jersey City, right across from City Hall, and the whole, like, they have retail on the first floor, and then the whole second floor is like the WeWorks concept, where you can lease an office, a desk, a phone, they concierge services.
With regard to this, as a banker, how do you look at the co-working space?
Well, in this particular situation, I think it's an amenity of the
It's
apartment.
part of the
It's part of the
apartments, right?
apartment.
I'm talking specifically co-working space.
Well, we just signed up for some space in Brooklyn where we're going to have 6 business bankers working out of it. So, we think it's the
As a
future.
tenant, fine.
As a tenant, yeah.
Okay, as a lender?
As a lender, we financed a project in Brooklyn already. So, it has to have the right, underwriting principles, but I think it's a pretty good transaction.
In Long Island City recently, a large apartment house, 1/3 of the building is a co-living space. Are you seeing co-living in Newark or Jersey City and other markets?
I haven't seen it in Jersey yet.
no, people have talked about it, but I haven't seen anything.
Me either.
I mean, in Journal Square, I toured, Murray Kushner's building, and he has some of those micro apartments. You look at them and they say, whoa. And when you look at it, it's almost like a hotel room. It's pretty compact, but it's $30 a night. It's $1,800, and you live in there. And I think for some of the millennials that are not spending a lot of time in their apartment, they like the common areas. They spend a lot of time there. They're working hard in New York, technology type people, consulting, young professionals. I think it's a good space, it's good bang for the dollar.
Where do you see the best opportunities in the Garden State today as a developer or other things? And are you seeing people from foreign investors coming into New Jersey? Are we seeing the Middle East? Are we seeing the Indian? Are we seeing the Chinese investor? I know China Construction has a major development in Jersey City.
On Hudson Street.
On Hudson Street. A couple of other people I know, HAP, which is an American company, but all their money comes from Israel, is also investing in Jersey City. Are we seeing that changes? Are we seeing people from other parts of the country coming to New Jersey?
Considering who we are and just like Claremont, we're an apartment construction developer first. And the housing market is still so underdeveloped from the 2008 to 2012 downturn. Nothing happened for that 4 to 5 year period. So we are still so underbuilt. Now we're starting to catch up, and like all builders now, we're eventually overdeveloped, and then there'll be a balance again. But at this point, with the new millennials and the next generation, they're not looking for housing for ownership until they're 30 to 35. So the 21 to 25 and then coming out of college likes the new apartments. They don't want the old apartments. So just like Claremont and what we're doing, they like the amenities.
What about the single-family housing? Are you seeing development? Are developers like Toll Brothers of Nanian and other people building in New Jersey today?
Absolutely. I mean, Toll's always been the bellwether, and they still do the strong, but they've reduced their footprint from the 6,500 square foot to 4,500 square foot, and they're still doing well. K-How's brand is the Four Seasons, the age, you know, the baby boomers again, moving into that type of a market, and they do it well. The private developers, like us, we are moving to the apartments because that's where you see it. We're not geared up to do what Toll and K-Hov do really, really well. But the apartment construction with the amenities that we talked about, right?
Yeah, I think what you
the
see with Toll
workspace.
Brothers and K-Hov is the baby boomers moving out of their house in suburbia,
Right, and
and moving
they want to downsize a little
Yeah,
bit.
so like the old Allied Signal out in Morristown.
Right.
That's a development where I think I know 3 couples from Summit that have moved out there. I think that's more the trend right now is that, you know, the people that want to downsize their suburban home, be moved into Hoboken, move into Manhattan, and maybe have a house down the Jersey Shore, you know, for the weekends.
So if I look at my apple over here, it seems very bright and shiny in the state of New Jersey. And I'd like to thank my executive producer and good friend Kevin Cummings for bringing his friends from New Jersey. Stan, Clary, Jeff,
Jeff.
thank you, and I'll see you next week.